Colleagues from the procedure, representative of civil society, and friends. My name is Clément Voulet, and I'm the former UN Special Rapporteur on the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and of association. I'm really happy to support and facilitate this panel discussion or side event that we will be we are having now. Before maybe introducing quickly our distinguished guests, I would like just to set up a little bit the framework in which we are gathered here. The working group on enforced and involuntary disappearance conducted a visit to the African Union Judicial and Human Rights Organ, another sub-regional body from 21 to 26 October 2023. The visit was the first of its kind and took place in Arusha, United Republic of Tanzania, in the context of the 70th Ordinary Session of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights session. The visit was conducted in line with the Addis Ababa Roadmap, which established the cooperation between the African Special Procedure and United Special Mechanism. And this roadmap was adopted in 2012 in Addis Ababa. And this roadmap was the first kind in the history where a regional body and an international body, experts come together to design how they can cooperate and enhance and ensure that their work can have more impact. So this side event aimed really to further to operationalize the Addis Ababa Roadmap and to strengthen this cooperation, in particular when it comes to the issue of enforced and involuntary disappearances. So we will have during this session a discussion around the reports of these visits of the working group, but also we will use this opportunity also to discuss about how we can strengthen together and we can support together the cooperation between the regional and international system, in particular within this framework of Addis Ababa Roadmap. So we are happy today here to have our distinguished panelists. I'm not going to introduce them now individually. I will just call their name, and when it comes to them to take the floor, I will talk a little bit about their background, because as you know now, we have only 1 hour for side events, and we should maximize it and give you opportunity also to give your input in how we can strengthen the Addis Ababa Roadmap. So at the beginning, we will hear from our Balde, who is the chair of the working group. We will then go to His Excellency, the Ambassador of South Africa. I will introduce him when he comes. And then we will also hear from one of the allies in this cooperation, which is the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Represents his commissioner here, Commissioner So. And then we will also hear from our friend from Egypt. I will introduce him when it's come time. And then we will close on time, I hope. By Anna Lorena, who is also member of the working group. So let me then get started. If we agree on this plan, and I hope that it suits all of you. I just want also to mention that from my knowledge, there are interpretation. So if you feel more comfortable in French, speak in French, and then I don't know currently the channel, which channel then, but people can, the channel 3, so please use them. So thank you very much for, again, coming to this side event, and also for your commitment to continue to support the cooperation between the international and regional system. So let me start with you, Awa. Tell us a little bit about your visits and how it went, and what can we expect here as an outcome, and how do you think we can continue to support the working group to again strengthen this cooperation and your work in overall?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. It's absolutely a pleasure to see so many familiar faces in an issue that is dear to all of us. First of all, thank you very much, Clément. I would like to say that Clément was somehow part of this delegation that worked on this report, because we were part of the UN delegation that went to Arusha last year. And Clément is also one of the great brains behind the Addis Ababa project, the Addis Ababa Roadmap. If we talk about it today, and it has persisted over a decade, it's because Clément was really resilient and never gave up on this project. And I'm happy to walk on the shoulders of a giant. Thank you very much. I'm very honored that you are here. Let me also acknowledge Frederica. Frederica is the hand that moves everything behind what we do between Geneva and Banjul and other capitals, human rights capitals in our continent. And we appreciate that you never give up on this, despite sometimes the challenging environment in which we find ourselves. I would like to also extend my special gratitude to Your Excellency Ambassador Nkosi, the permanent representative of South Africa to the United Nations in Geneva. It is an honor that you have accepted to be with us today, because without the states, we cannot indeed implement our mandate the way we would like it to. So we appreciate whenever a state takes the time to engage with us. And congratulations on South Africa for the ratification of the convention. And I take this opportunity to call on other African states, including some of whom who are in this very room, to also proceed with the ratification if they haven't done so. I am particularly honored to have Commissioner Idrissa Sow, a member of the African Commission on Human and People Rights, and the chair of its working group on death penalty, extrajudicial killings, arbitrary and enforced disappearance. Commissioner Sow has been someone who have provided us the space to further this cooperation. Without the clarity of his own goal in implementing this mandate and his personal commitment to the fight against enforced disappearance in the African continent, we wouldn't be having this dialogue. So we appreciate the opportunity, and it's really an honor to see you here in Geneva and to host you here. I would also like to thank Hamid from Committee for Justice. Hamid has been very engaged with the working group in several instances, assisting what is more important to us, because you are the voice of the victims, and it's you that brings us and allows us to implement our mandate. You were with us in Arusha when we did the event in Arusha, and you are here again with us. We appreciate, and we do not take for granted that you cooperate with us. I'm also equally honored to have Anna Lorena, who joined us and went with me to Arusha so that we could all look into the African continent and see what else we can do about the victims. It's an honor to come here and to share with you the findings of this report. As Clément was saying, it's first of its kind, but I hope it's not the last. I hope this will inspire that United Nations Special Procedures Mechanism of the usefulness of and the value to engage with the regional system, and I actually think it should go beyond the African human rights system and extend to other regions, because our fight for justice, our fight to uphold human rights, it's of a global nature. This, as I was saying, when we started this visit, we went to Arusha, but beyond that, we also had the opportunity. It was, I would say, a hybrid visit in the sense that in Arusha, we met with the African Commission, the African Court on Human and People's Rights, and the East African Court of Justice, but then we were also provided with an opportunity to exchange with the ECOWAS Community Court. We met representatives of civil society organizations, victims and their families, human rights defenders, and legal professionals across the continent. The visit provided a unique opportunity to assess the state of enforced disappearance in Africa and the efforts made by the regional and sub-regional bodies to address this issue. Despite the challenges made, we identify critical gaps in addressing and preventing enforced disappearances, particularly due to underreporting, a lack of legal framework, and insufficient cooperation from the states, which again brings me back to the fact that I'm very pleased that South Africa is here with us today. So some of the key findings that I would like to highlight. One of them is about the invisibility of enforced disappearance in the continent. This was one of our most concerning findings in the report, because we realized that the invisibility of phenomena is across the African continent. The documentation of the cases that we have in our docket do not reflect the scale of the problem in the continent. Enforced disappearances in Africa are a grave and pervasive issue that remain largely underreported. Just to give you a few of the numbers. Since the inception of the working group, we have documented around enforced disappearances in 112 states, more or less, and 35 of which in the African continent. Of the 47,774 cases under active consideration, only a really small, tiny fraction of it is from Africa. This is around 4,811 cases. These numbers do not fully capture the reality. Underreporting, be it due to fear of reprisals or lack of knowledge, persists, leaving many victims and their families without recognition of their rights. The lack of legal framework is also another area that we have identified. The low level of ratification of the Convention on Enforced Disappearances, compounded with the lack of codification of enforced disappearance as an autonomous crime in many African countries, significantly hampers efforts to prevent, investigate, and punish such acts. Without appropriate legal frameworks, challenges remain in identifying and addressing these challenges, which in turn perpetuates the culture of impunity. The other aspect that we have also identified has to do with criminalization of victims and defenders. We have observed troubling trends in which victims, civil society organizations, and human rights defenders seeking truth and justice for enforced disappearance are themselves subject to harassment, criminalizations, and reprisals. Oh, sorry. I'm very excited, obviously, to share this report. Apologies. Okay. And also I'm mindful of the time, but many face significant, I was speaking about victims and the defenders, human rights defenders. Many face significant hurdles, legal obstacles, and personal threats that hinder their ability to function and support victims. This creates an environment of fear, further inhibiting effort to seek justice and truth. Impunity is a deep-seated the culture of impunity is deep-seated, and it prevails across many African states. Despite widespread of the practice of enforced disappearance, the working group sadly could not document a single effective investigation or prosecution of such cases during our visit. The lack of accountability for perpetrators emboldens the continued use of enforced disappearance as a tool for repression. The absence of prosecutions significantly erodes trust in justice systems and creates an environment where perpetrators operate without fear of consequences. Finally, I would like to say something positive, which is that we commend the efforts of the African Union judicial and human rights organs and other sub-regional bodies in advancing human rights across the continent. We also recognize the challenges that these mechanisms face, especially regarding lack of resources, the political will, and technical support to ensure that they can effectively carry their mandate. The working group underscores that enforced disappearance is a global issue affecting the African continent and all other regions. Evidence gathered during the visit demonstrates that enforced disappearances are often used by government as a tool to suppress dissent, as it is in many other parts of the world. If you go through the report, and I won't be exhaustive here, but we looked at instances of enforced disappearance. Enforced disappearance happens, for instance, in the context of armed conflict. It happens in the context of counterterrorism and security operations. It happens in the context of transnational and extraterritorial context. It happens also in the context of elections. It happens in the context of land and natural fights for land and natural resources. So these are some of the areas in which we capture cases of enforced disappearance, but again, the list is not exhaustive. I would also like to highlight that, once again, I mentioned it before, but I really feel that civil society organizations, we heard it over and over throughout our visit, civil society organizations, human rights defenders, and professionals who are at the forefront in addressing enforced disappearance, suffer legal threats and personal reprisals in their daily work. And we really would like to call the attention to this, because without the support of civil society, we will not be able to end the practice of enforced disappearance anywhere, including in our continent. Maybe before I finish, I would like to perhaps highlight some of the key recommendations that we have made, starting with that we call on all African states to codify the enforced disappearance as an autonomous crime, because we believe this is essential to ensure accountability and to prevent further violations. We call on African states to ratify the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance, following the example of South Africa, and in doing so, recognize the competence of the Committee on Enforced Disappearance. We also call on African states to strengthen the regional and sub-regional mechanisms, because they do play an important and irreplaceable role in the protection of human rights in the continents. This should be done through increased financial, political, and technical supports. We also call on the states to take concrete steps to protect victims and human rights defenders, their families, and those who support them, including human rights, civil society organizations, and all of that. This includes ensuring that they are not subject to harassment, reprisals, or criminalizations. We also believe that states must adopt and implement concrete measures to prevent enforced disappearance in different contexts, including political instability, elections, migration, counterterrorism operations. In particular, we call on states to ensure that procedural safeguards and judicial oversights are in place to prevent the commission of enforced disappearance. Finally, I would like to say that we call on African states, in terms of recommendation, to ensure that those who perpetrate enforced disappearance are held accountable, regardless of their position or status. Impunity only serves to perpetuate the cycle of violence and repression. The eradication of enforced disappearance in Africa requires a collective effort and unwavering commitment from all stakeholders, including states, civil society organizations, regional mechanisms, and international communities. The voice of the victims and their families must be at the center of all our efforts, and their right to truth, justice, and reparation must be fully realized. We cannot wait any longer. The time for action is now, and the working group remains committed to supporting African states and the regional and sub-regional parties in this fight, and to raise its voice to protect the victims of enforced disappearances. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Awa. And I think the good thing when you are running out of time is that you don't need to summarize, and everything has been said. And I think it also gives you an incentive to go and look at the report. I think from your presentation now, and I hear so many things there, all of us will go and read the report. And I hear you also yesterday saying that it's not because there is no testify case or in your country in terms of this case of disappearance that you shouldn't ratify the convention, because you should ratify the convention and also put in place all measures to prevent that. So thank you very much, and thanks also for the good work that you are doing. And let me also use the opportunity again to thank all of those who are supporting this activity now, among them defenders, represented here by Hassan and Nicola. And I just wanted to mention also that Hassan was also among the people that was in Addis Ababa, all of us fighting. And I'm sure you are happy to see how this is taking off. And thank you very much for keeping this framework of cooperation alive. And thanks also, Federica, and I want to mention also for your great work and all of the working group members. It's now my honor to invite Ambassador Nkosi from South Africa to take the floor. And I want also to really congratulate you, and through you, your country, because you already implement the recommendation 2 before even the report is presented. which is calling all African countries to ratify. In May this year, your country ratified the convention. And I want also, again, to thank you, but also to commend also your country for standing for justice, international justice, the principle, and I'm sure that through your participation, we will also hear soon many African countries referring to this Addis Ababa Roadmap, but also supporting this work because it's there to really help countries, to help African countries to improve the situation. And you have experts from the Africa UN coming together, putting their brain to help countries to promote human rights. What else you need more? Thank you, Ambassador, for your commitment, and you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Clement, my dear brother. Good to see you. And keep up the good work you are doing. Esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen, I take this opportunity to thank the OHCHR and the Human Rights Special Procedures for organizing this event and for inviting me to share my thoughts on the Addis Ababa Roadmap, a very important topic in the context of promoting human rights and preventing abuses. South Africa is indeed privileged to join efforts aimed at operationalizing the roadmap by holding this engagement between the African Union, judicial and human rights organs, focusing on the work of the UN Working Group on Involuntary and Enforced Disappearances. We welcome in Geneva the presence of members of the two special procedures and wish to extend our unremitting support to their mandates as crucial mechanisms to monitor and report on human rights violations that manifest themselves through involuntary and enforced disappearances, amongst others. The topic cannot be more pertinent as the General Assembly will soon be undertaking a review of the Human Rights Council pursuant to Resolution 51/1 to make this institution fit for purpose, ready to respond to the human rights challenges confronting the world today. In this endeavor, collaboration between the special procedures of the Human Rights Council and the special mechanisms of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights remains pivotal. As member states who created these institutions, we have a responsibility to build and strengthen synergies, ensure deep collaboration, and cultivate a culture of systemic information sharing. The importance of the role of civil society in these endeavors can never be overemphasized. The African Commission on Human and People's Rights remains a critically important instrument for African people as it is tasked with the protection of human and people's rights and the interpretation of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. As part of efforts to strengthen these special procedures and organs, we reiterate our call for the need to guard against the weaponization and instrumentalization of the human rights-oriented institutions in executing their mandates. Member states must always ensure that the principles of universality, objectivity, indivisibility, interrelatedness are always the guide for these institutions in discharging their mandates. Presenting his oral report at the beginning of this session of the Human Rights Council, the High Commissioner Volker Turk mentioned that, and I quote, "Human rights are not in crisis, but political leadership is needed to make them a reality," close quote. For this reason, political will is required to enable both the HRC and the African Commission on Human and People's Rights to fulfill their mandates. I wish to remind this gathering that earlier this year, South Africa, as has been mentioned, deposited its instrument of ratification to the United Nations following the ratification of the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance Convention by our Parliament. This action was informed by our commitment to this instrument as a country that emerged from the brutal history of conflict and racial discrimination during apartheid, wherein the phenomenon of involuntary and enforced disappearance was the order of the day. It can therefore not be more important that we add our voice in condemning these practices around the world and to call on states to take the lead in turning the tide against this scourge. We regard enforced disappearances in the context of not only armed conflicts, but also in politically charged environments as a crime against humanity, which must be condemned at all times as it constitutes a violation of the UN Charter and the Universal Declaration for Human Rights. South Africa remains steadfast in its support for the strengthening of cooperation among special procedures between Geneva and Addis Ababa in the context of the Addis Roadmap in order to enhance collaboration, ensure consistency, thus promoting the universal understanding and application of human rights. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And with your permission, Excellency, I will say that you are now our ambassador for the Addis Ababa Roadmap. Thank you very much, because and let me say, since in 2012, when this framework was adopted, there was a lot of hope. But let me also say that since then, this framework never received any financial support from any donor. But if you look at the work that we have been doing, it's great. In 2022, we decided now to expand the framework and also to put in place the early warning system in order to help states. When the UN Special Rapporteur and the African Commission experts come together and are able to convene some of the cases to the state where we see that there is a potential crisis or commission of international crime, I think that will be great and it needs support. So thank you very much, Ambassador, and I hope that through your participation, so a lot of African countries also will be referring to this framework and also start supporting this framework. Thanks for your commitment, but also your country commitment also to support this process. Let me now, I will switch in French, please. If you don't mind, you can take your...
If you need translation for those who are...
Okay, I will make it simpler. Let me go for this. Thank you very much for the... And Commissioner, so thank you very much for coming to Geneva. I know that right after this, you are going to the important mission, but you make sure that you will be here because it's important. It's important for you, and you have been engaged in this process also for now 2 years. And I know that in 2018, the Commission decided to expand the working group now that you are in charge of to take into account the enforced disappearances, because the Commission see the need and see also the importance of looking at this specifically. So tell us, the Commission, how since then, the enforced disappearances, how are you articulating this, and how do you cooperate with the working group, and how this Addis Ababa Roadmap give you space to be able to do that? Thank you, Commissioner.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président de séance. Je voudrais saluer respectueusement toutes les personnes qui assistent à ce panel. Excellence, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur, Mesdames et Messieurs, je voudrais dire que ma présence ici, Monsieur Voulet, c'est presque un devoir pour moi. C'est un devoir, c'est une obligation, puisque l'article 45 de la Charte africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples, qui organise un tout petit peu le cadre de l'intervention des commissaires à la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme, nous fait obligation de coopérer avec toutes les instances nationales comme internationales, avec tous les organes qui s'intéressent à la promotion et à la protection des droits de l'homme. Ça, c'est un premier élément. Le deuxième élément, c'est que ma présence ici également s'inscrit dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre de cette importante feuille de route d'Addis Abeba qui fixe un tout petit peu le cadre de la coopération que la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples entretient avec les mécanismes spéciaux des Nations Unies. Nous parlons aujourd'hui des disparitions forcées. Madame Awa Baldé l'a dit, en ce qui concerne l'Afrique, c'est une réalité diffuse. Diffuse parce qu'elle existe, mais on n'a pas assez de chiffres pour traduire un tout petit peu l'étendue de ce phénomène. Et l'autre difficulté, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, la Charte africaine des droits de l'homme ne parle pas de disparition forcée. On pourrait penser qu'on n'a pas de base juridique appropriée pour combattre ce phénomène. Donc, nous adressons les questions de disparition forcée à travers d'autres dispositions de la Charte qui traitent, par exemple, du droit à la protection de la loi, à l'égale protection de la loi, du droit à la dignité. Donc, c'est à travers ces dispositions-là que nous adressons les questions liées aux disparitions forcées. Un moment, l'idée avait été émise au sein de la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme, en fait, d'adopter un protocole spécifique qui parlerait des disparitions forcées, pour venir un tout petit peu combler ce vide juridique dont j'ai parlé. Mais chemin faisant, dans la réflexion, on s'est dit, mais pourquoi ne pas s'arrimer au cadre universel? On s'est rappelé que dans le cadre universel, on avait une convention internationale pour la protection de toutes les personnes contre les disparitions forcées. Et la réflexion a été de dire, mais qu'est-ce qu'on pourrait dire de plus? Donc, nous, aujourd'hui, dans notre stratégie, c'est de nous appuyer sur cette convention internationale, d'amener les États africains à adhérer ou à ratifier selon le cas. Alors, dans notre stratégie toujours, à chaque fois que nous dialoguons avec les États, dans le cadre des présentations de rapports périodiques, dans le cadre des visites de promotion que nous avons dans les différents États partis à la Charte, nous amenons les États membres d'abord à ratifier la Convention, mais également à établir les disparitions forcées comme étant une infraction autonome dans leur législation nationale. Parce que le constat a été fait que dans beaucoup de pays africains, nous n'avons pas une infraction spécifique pour réprimer les crimes de disparition forcée. Ce qui fait qu'aujourd'hui, si ces cas-là adviennent, les personnes responsables sont simplement poursuivies sur la base d'infractions comme séquestration ou détention, disons, arbitraire. Ce qui, de mon point de vue, se situe en deçà des standards de gravité. Donc, vraiment, nous insistons sur ces questions-là. Toujours dans le cadre du renforcement des instruments juridiques, je rappelle pour votre information que depuis 2022, la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme a établi des lignes directrices pour accompagner les États membres dans la mise en œuvre de stratégies adaptées dans la lutte et la prévention contre les disparitions forcées. Il y a des défis et je voudrais en parler. Aujourd'hui, la Commission qui est chargée, dans son mandat de protection, de réagir à chaque fois qu'il y a des cas de disparition forcée, a des difficultés pour avoir des remontées d'informations fiables. Je veux simplement dire qu'on n'a pas des canaux officiels par lesquels les organisations de la société civile intervenant sur le terrain ou bien les proches des victimes de disparition forcée, en fait, des canaux par lesquels ils peuvent nous saisir. Le seul exemple que je vais donner, il n'y a pas longtemps, j'ai été avisé d'un cas de disparition forcée dans un État de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, mais c'est de façon informelle, vraiment par un mail que quelqu'un m'a informé. Et j'ai tout de suite pris des actions à travers ce qu'on appelle une lettre d'appel urgent que j'ai adressée au chef d'État du pays concerné. Et par la suite, très rapidement, le problème a été réglé, puisque même si je n'ai pas reçu de réponse formelle, l'État concerné a répondu par les actes, la personne ayant été mise en liberté. Alors, je me suis dit qu'il fallait peut-être profiter de panels comme ça, de ce cadre de discussion, pour amener en fait, les uns et les autres à réfléchir sur la mise en œuvre de mécanismes par lesquels on pourrait en fait, échanger des informations. Le groupe de travail, par exemple, pourrait peut-être nous remonter des informations. Les organisations de la société civile également. Dans le système interaméricain, j'ai pu noter en fait, une modalité d'information qui me paraît très pertinente et qui pourrait peut-être être dupliquée au niveau de la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme. Ils ont des lignes téléphoniques dédiées aux victimes qui peuvent tout de suite les utiliser et avertir la Commission interaméricaine en cas de disparition. Nous pourrons peut-être aller dans ce sens. On pourrait également s'appuyer sur les technologies de l'information et de la communication pour pouvoir donner la possibilité aux victimes, aux proches des victimes, à chaque fois qu'il y a disparition forcée, de pouvoir nous saisir, pour nous permettre de réagir promptement. En tout cas, Monsieur le Président, pour ne pas être long dans l'intérêt du travail, peut-être je vais me limiter à ces quelques éléments en vous réaffirmant encore ma disponibilité en tant que président du groupe de travail qui s'occupe des questions de disparition forcée, à renforcer la coopération avec tous les mécanismes spéciaux des Nations Unies. Je vous remercie et je vous rends la parole.
Thank you very much, Commissioner So. And we can see the synergy between your vision and what also the working group is doing. And I think this is exactly how the Addis Ababa Roadmap is framed. How can we, when it comes to the continent, work together as an expert from the African Commission and also experts from the UN? And also trying also to cooperate on cases, for example, when we are able to solve the issue of confidentiality and make sure the victim knows that we are working together on his case, and also help states in improving. And thank you very much for sharing this. And I want also to recognize many activists from Africa here, and also thanking you for your presence. Now, let me also say that, Commissioner, before maybe giving the floor to my brother Ahmed, say also that we are, one of the things that we are thinking here, and also is a reflection from you. We want also to be able next year to bring all the commissioners. You know, at the African Commission, all of them have specific mandate. We want to bring them next year here, to have a meeting with the government here, to have a meeting with the council, but we are looking for funding. So you all can contribute, because this is a great work. This is how we can support it. So please, see Federica, if you can contribute in any way, thank you very much. And let me also turn to my brother Ahmed. I think for you it's a little bit tough now. Ahmed, I can see from your CV that you have been a very, very powerful activist for a long time, and I know you for a long time, and how you face reprisal and everything. So tell us a little bit about your experience when it comes to the enforced disappearance. You are from Egypt, of course, and thank you very much for being here and for your courage also to speak on this panel.
Thank you very much. I would begin to ask for funding to bringing the human rights defender to Geneva and also to Bangkok. So this is an ongoing issue now. It's not only a UN issue, but also it's a human rights defenders issue. By the way, thank you very much, Clément, Excellency, and ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to be here today to discuss the importance of the partnership between the African Commission on Human and People Rights and the UN Special Rapporteurs. Of course, we are here with the invitation from the working group, but I think it's the umbrella of, or the covering all the special rapporteurs, all the special procedures in United Nations and the cooperation between the African Commission and the UN special procedures. This partnership is not just a formal relationship between institutions, but a symbol of hope for advancing human rights across Africa. Human rights can only be truly protected when international and regional institutions work together. That's why the Addis Ababa Roadmap, launched in 2012, was a major step forward. It has helped strengthen the partnership between the ACHPR and the UN Special Rapporteurs. Through this partnership, joint visits has been conducted, joint statements have been made, events have been held to raise awareness about the human rights issue affecting Africa. Despite these positive steps, challenges remain, especially in North Africa. Many of human rights defenders in this region face significant difficulty in accessing international support. Not all human rights in North Africa have direct access to the UN Special Rapporteurs, which create a gap in communication and protection. One of the most serious issues these defenders face is enforced disappearances. In many countries, people disappeared for standing up against regimes or defending human rights, and their fate remains unknown. This affects not only the defenders themselves, but also their families and the communities who left without answers. Enforced disappearances is not just a North Africa issue. Around the world, from Latin America to Southeast Asia, human rights defenders face the same risks. This is where the collaboration between the African Commission and the UN Special Rapporteurs become important. It provides an international platform to highlight these issues, to press governments to protect human rights defenders, and to demand justice for those who disappeared. However, we must acknowledge that there are still gaps. Human rights defenders in Africa and in North Africa and many African regions needs better access to both the African Commission and the UN Special Rapporteurs. The ACHBR, the African Commission, must work harder to reach out to these defenders and prioritize their protection. At the same time, the international community must increase its focus on countries where enforced disappearances are spread. Moreover, we need a dedicated platform within the ACHBR and the UN Special Rapporteurs to report cases of enforced disappearances, ensuring that the perpetrators are held accountable. Joint investigation and the public statement from both the African Commission and the UN have already proven effective, but more sustained efforts are needed to protect human rights defenders and seek justice for the victims. As we look to the future, I urge all of us to strengthen the cooperation between these two important institutions. The work of the African Commission and the UN Special Rapporteurs must continue and expand to meet the growing challenges that human rights defenders face, especially in North Africa and this suffering from enforced disappearances. These brave defenders who risk their lives to expose injustice depend on our collective effort to protect them. Together, through cooperation and shared responsibility, we can make sure their voices are heard, their lives are protected, and justice is served. In conclusion, I would like to thank the Working Group of Enforced Disappearances for their work and efforts to evacuating the fate of hundreds of victims of enforced disappearances in Africa generally, and in North Africa specifically, and especially in Egypt. The working group has become the only means for hundreds of families of the enforced disappearances victims. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ahmed. And again, thank you for your courage, but also I think your message also was received by the working group, but also by the African Commission in terms of how to pay particular attention for North of Africa in terms of access to the Commission, access to the UN, but also when it comes to the enforced disappearance, which we know from experience, it also affects a lot of human rights defenders around the world, in particular in authoritarian system. Now we are now going to have a discussion. I think I promised you 15 minutes, right? Really? Okay. But Anna, how many time you want you need for the? Okay. So if you want the working group to continue to invite me to facilitate, you need to help me. You need to help me. No, you need to help me to keep on time, and so we can make sure that we give her time. She was in Arusha. She's one of the mind of this report, so it's the person I like more. So sorry if I cut you to give her time, because I want to be invited again. Okay, let's open the floor. Hassan. Okay, how can we?
Next to Rose,
Can you? Yes. Rose and Biro, Hassan, Rose, Biro, and there's also state. Okay, Morocco, As a practice, let me start with the states. You know, it's the council practice, so that I'm not kicked off from these premises. I don't have any more badge, so I need to. Morocco.
My question will be in French. So, merci, Monsieur le Président. Déjà, je me fais un plaisir de vous revoir. La dernière fois, c'était à Kampala et je vois d'autres visages, African Defenders. Merci aussi de nous avoir intégrés dans ce débat-là. La dernière fois où on avait des discussions à propos de la feuille de route d'Addis, la question était comment est-ce qu'on pourrait justement envisager plus de participation de la société civile. Ça fait partie du premier point affiché au niveau des objectifs de la feuille de route. Donc concrètement, maintenant je sais que parmi les objectifs aussi, c'est d'élaborer une stratégie. Est-ce que la société civile est représentée au sein de cette stratégie? Et puis aussi au niveau du dernier point de cette annexe-là, on parle aussi au niveau du point 11 de la garantie de représentation, je pense, de 2 personnes de la société civile. Donc, où est-ce qu'on en est par rapport à cet engagement? Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Je pense que nous allons prendre les questions et on reviendra pour la réponse. Hassan.
Thank you, Clément. Friend and all the respectable people in this panel, from the ambassador to Ahmed and Hawa and Soy, and also Ms. Pressa. I really want to, as a founding member of this initiative in Addis, representing civil society of Africa, it's a great pleasure to see that this initiative, moves forward. So defenders and African defenders, we are very much committed in seeing this initiative moves forward. Toward that, this year in June, we helped to organize through funding and also co-organizing with Frederica here a special panel on these efforts to bring commissioners from African Commission and also from the UN Human Rights Council to come together and meet civil society and propagate and advance the Addis Ababa Roadmap. I want also to register now the same commitment to see these initiatives moves forward and comes to Africa in the continent so that we can host on the margins of the African Commission regular session or maybe independently on our own. Happy also to see that North African human rights defenders have been investing heavily to bring them to the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Every session you attend, you may find no less than 10, including Ahmed, attending fully at the African Commission and having their side event and also participating in different panels and also now looking for an observer status so that they can be integral part of the continental framework of human rights protection. So I thank you, Clément. I know you have not left us. You will continue to work on toward this. We will put our brains together to bring this call you made, clarion call, to be answered, and we can have a future activities on that. Thank you. And how we're looking forward to welcoming you in Kampala.
Thank you very much, Hassan, and thanks also for your continued support to the implementation of this framework. Rose?
I just want to start by congratulating the Special Rapporteur chairing the working group on the report and also thanking the African Commission for attending this session. I want to congratulate our neighbor back home, South Africa, for ratifying the convention, and I do hope that you encourage the government of Zimbabwe to also ratify the convention, given that we're having challenges around enforced disappearances. And I also see that Malawi is a member state, so please ensure that the other Southern Africa Development Community members represented in this room and not represented also ratify, domesticate, and implement that convention. It's not necessary for states to disappear their citizens. they may as well strengthen institutions that investigate crimes so that they don't have to disappear citizens. And also maybe just to call upon the member states from the Southern Africa to say that as civil society, we are concerned about the restrictions in civic space, particularly where states are saying they want to implement the Financial Action Task Force recommendations. And we hope that you can encourage each other to continue to keep civic space open, because as civil society organizations within Southern Africa, we are important stakeholders in ensuring that human rights are respected and promoted, especially for the victims of enforced disappearances. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rose, and I'm sure your call was, and then your recommendation was taken by our distinguished delegates here. Biro?
Je suis Biro Diawara, je représente la rencontre africaine pour la défense des droits de l'homme. Je tiens à féliciter l'ambassadeur Gozi de l'Afrique du Sud pour votre engagement pour les droits de l'homme de façon constante. Et dans votre pays, le continent africain marche à 2 vitesses. Un pas en avant, 2 pas en arrière. Pourquoi je dis? Je viens de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. À la 55e session du Conseil des droits de l'homme, nous avons reçu le coordonnateur national de la défense de la Constitution, Fonike Mangue, qui a été enlevé le 9 juillet dernier avec ses camarades, nuitamment par la junte militaire en Guinée. Et je viens de recevoir maintenant un message de Maître Beavogui, Salif Beavogui, et qui a écrit à ses collègues du bâtonnier parce qu'il y a une dame qui a porté plainte contre l'État guinéen auprès de son cabinet pour la disparition de son mari depuis le 9 septembre 2023. C'est aujourd'hui seulement, maintenant là, et que sa femme a été appelée pour voir le corps de son mari. Et ça, c'est en Guinée. Et puis, le cas du Mali, on n'en parle pas, où il y a les coups d'État, et aussi au Burkina Faso, nous continuons tous les jours à recevoir à la radio des appels. Il y a une semaine, j'ai reçu aussi l'appel d'une autre femme du Tchad. Son mari a été enlevé. Il y a des problèmes. L'Afrique du Sud est un exemple de bonne pratique qui doit aider aussi à sensibiliser les autres pays africains à avoir la volonté politique réelle pour mettre un terme au problème de disparition forcée en Afrique. Nous encourageons notre organisation, cet échange d'informations et de coopération entre les mécanismes sous-régionaux et internationaux. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Biro, pour, je crois que ton appel également va à l'endroit du groupe de travail, mais aussi de la Commission africaine. Et je suis sûr qu'à la fin de cette réunion, tu pourras t'approcher. Mais malheureusement, on ne pourra plus avoir, parce que j'ai promis 5 minutes à Anna, sinon je serai dans des difficultés. À moins que le working group me permette de prendre une personne encore, je le ferai.
One last. Yes.
One last.
Yes, yes.
Oh, now it's
Love it. You have so many.
I leave it to you.
Two.
Two.
This and
Okay.
over there.
Okay, then it's finished.
Yes.
Please, if you can keep in 3 seconds, that would be great.
3 seconds, thank you. It's done. Thank you very much. I'm Mohammed Yassin from the African Center for Democracy and Human Rights Studies. Allow us to congratulate you on this session especially, and allow us also to express our support to the work you are doing, and we are here to reinforce what you are doing. Originally, I am from Sudan. I am very concerned about Sudan. I'm Italian also, rather than, in addition to be Sudanese. But I don't forget my home country because I'm concerned there is growing phenomenon of enforced disappearance and involuntary disappearance, and combined with sexual enslavement for women due to the ongoing conflict. This situation requires your attention, and we count on the African Commission to take concrete steps in order to dismantle this phenomenon and to stop the war, which is one of the root causes of this growing number of enforced disappearance and sexual enslavement, especially for women, and exploitation of children, and also in armed activities. This is a key message I would like to convey to you, and also we count on South Africa to lead a genuine African solidarity with the people of Sudan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we have now the last person to take the floor. But let me also recognize the presence of Nasser Distou, who is a long-time fighter against enforced disappearance in Algeria. Thank you very much for being here today. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I did not want to take the floor, but nobody said anything about national human rights institutions, so I felt like I had an obligation to NHRIs just to indicate that we have engaged with the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, with the working group regularly, and all of the recommendations that the chairperson, Awa, made are also very relevant, and NHRIs, I think most state parties have NHRIs, are also very useful. Just to highlight, whether it's an alert system, whatever, when you think of civil society, please also think of NHRIs. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the reminder, and I think we all appreciate, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And now it's my pleasure to give the floor. But she promised that she will invite me next time, so sorry for that.
Maybe you can just reply to Morocco.
Yes, we have also the Morocco, and I think the question asked by Morocco, maybe you and Nawa. Yes, you are right, vous avez raison. We decided during the review in 2022 to include 2 members of the civil society. Where are we now? Awa?
So it's something that we think it's at the core of what we do, and we really think moving forward it will be implemented. We started a discussion initially this year with the African Commission, but I will be in Banjul in October, and we will see how to operationalize it. But it was a request from the civil society organization, and it's a fair request. On our side, we think it's really important that they are part of the Addis Ababa. I mean, they are, but in a more present manner, yes, absolutely.
Commissioner, it's okay? You will operationalize it soon? Civil society is waiting. Merci. It's my pleasure now, my dear, to give you the floor for the closing.
Muchísimas gracias, Clement. La verdad es que no tengo más que felicitar la moderación, porque me parece que lo que hiciste fue lo correcto. No importa el tiempo que yo hable, voy a hablar muy poquito, pero lo que importa es escucharles a quienes están aquí y agradecer la presencia de quienes están aquí el día de hoy, organizaciones y personas que han venido también a hablar con los organismos. Rápidamente, agradezco muchísimo a Awa, a mi colega, por esta iniciativa, porque esto tuvo que ver con esta insistencia. Federica, ¿qué puedo decir? Siempre estuviste también ahí, pero yo también quiero agradecer al secretariado, a Cot, por allá está Cot Aler, si quieres levantar la mano, que nos acompañó en la visita, y decir que la presencia del secretariado fue muy importante también durante la visita, y el resto de las integrantes. Este fue un trabajo en equipo. Para mí fue un honor formar parte de este trabajo. Yo soy mexicana, vengo de Latinoamérica, y fue muy impresionante encontrar similitudes en muchas cosas. Cuántos aprendizajes traigo, y creo que tenemos mucho que compartir entre las regiones. Entonces, ahora sí voy a las conclusiones. Definitivamente, la hoja de ruta de Addis Abeba ha sido clave, no solamente para la visita, pero clave para entender la colaboración y la oportunidad que tenemos entre los órganos regionales y entre los órganos de Naciones Unidas. Igual también, esto lo resaltó el señor embajador, que es muy importante que reforcemos esta colaboración que tiene que haber. Una base, como decía bien el comisionado, es la Carta Africana, también donde hay reglas claras para que podamos ensanchar esta colaboración. Y importante lo que decía Ahmed, que no solamente quede ahí, sino que cada vez tengamos más declaraciones conjuntas, más acciones conjuntas, que es también lo que las organizaciones quieren ver desde el terreno. Desde la sociedad civil, gracias por el comentario de la compañera de Marruecos, porque es importante que esto no se haga sin la presencia de las organizaciones. Entonces, esa voz es importante, se retoma y la tenemos también como una tarea para seguir llevándola a cabo. Un punto central de la visita y del informe es la ratificación de la Convención Internacional para la Protección de todas las personas contra las desapariciones forzadas, que de hecho, como bien lo decía el comisionado, es la base que están utilizando para poder dar a conocer las desapariciones forzadas con mayor fuerza y para poder también atender aquellas ausencias que hay todavía en la legislación. Se destacó también la importancia de la participación de las víctimas y de la sociedad civil, no solamente para la visita, sino para todo el trabajo que hacemos. Sin ustedes, no podríamos hacer el trabajo que hacemos y por
do, which is why we're grateful that you are here and continue to work with us. What did you find? Lack of complaints, lack of knowledge about enforced disappearances. What is an enforced disappearance? Was the question. It appears to be straightforward, but people do not know, not just in Africa, but elsewhere. So what is it? And also lack of cooperation between the state institutions, but also between states themselves. We don't have figures, as the Commissioner was saying. That's very important. We need to get them. And the fact that in the African Charter, they're not, enforced disappearances not mentioned per se, but we need to see how we can, on the basis of other enshrined rights, we can address enforced disappearances, which is a reality in Africa. It is used to oppress people, and anyone who is an opponent or perceived as an opponent in a context where people are combating terrorism, transnational crime, and the fight for land and resources. There are restrictions in the public space. Those of you who have said this afternoon, you've told us about that. But furthermore, we've got this other issue of violence against women and girls and boys, as we were being told. The effects of enforced disappearances are awful, as we were hearing about this case from Biro and also from victims. These cases are awful because the effects for those, for everyone, not only the victims, but also the relatives, the loved ones, the communities, the regions. Why do we not have cases? Why don't people report? There are a number of reasons. Number one, because people don't know about the issue. Number two, because there's a lot of fear. And this is what the report says. But this is what we've heard today also. There is a fear from the families and also the human rights defenders. They are afraid. They do not want to report because they are afraid that they might disappear themselves. And we need to bear that in mind constantly because it's important that we continue to think about protection measures, but also prevention measures and the issue of fighting against impunity. This was clearly stated. Impunity and if there's impunity, you're telling everybody that enforced disappearances is permitted and we need to combat impunity. We've repeated that. Also, challenges in terms of ratification. We need also to criminalise it as a crime and develop mechanisms to prevent, investigate, sanction, and to provide reparation for the harm done with the participation of the victims and civil society also. We were also told this afternoon that it's very important that we have something else into account. Not everybody has access. Even regional bodies do not have access. And this happens in Africa and in other regions. There is a challenge we still have before us to enable people to have access to mechanisms and have access to us, we, the UN bodies. We need to think about this, address this, and with our leadership, we will do better, reaching regions and following the Addis Ababa Roadmap. What's positive? Number one, always the efforts made with little resources. With the human rights bodies, the justice bodies, we need to acknowledge that they're making huge efforts. We need to draw attention to the need to have human and material resources, not only for them, but also for the organizations, the NGOs, because if we do not have the NGOs behind us and organizations with resources to carry out this work, it will be very difficult for us to do it. It's important that a number of the we have the guidelines, they're very positive. We've had them from the Commission, and also the the recognition which is crucial for the victims' organisations. To conclude, I'm not going to repeat the recommendations, but there are some that need to be dwelt on. I'd like to close with this. This report is for you. It's for the victims, it's for the organisations, it's for the regional bodies, and it's for all UN bodies. It's for all of us. Awa said it and continues to say it. We need to take ownership of this report, and it could be the first step that can be enriched upon so that we can see what is lacking, where we need to go. So I invite you to continue to enrich this effort, and more important than anything, I would like to conclude with a message of hope, to echo Ahmed's word. We need to have hope, despite the fact that the context is very difficult. Hope and strength. We will get it from the victims who are fighting incredibly hard to defend their rights, and we'll get it from the organisations. With this hope and this strength, we will continue. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Ana Lorena. Muchas gracias, muchas gracias, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much indeed, Lorena. Ana Lorena.
On behalf of the organizer, my own behalf, I would like also to thank you for being here. And I want again to reiterate and also to mention what I hear from you yesterday. We are all potential disappeared people. That's how we need. Yes. We need to encourage our countries to set up all legal framework to ensure that this phenomenon can be pushed back. Legal framework is important. Ratification is important. And we have to do our work. We all. It's not about people disappearing. Either you are government, you are civil society, you are potential disappearers. So thank you very much for being here. I want to reiterate again my call. Support Addis Ababa Roadmap. Support us for next year to bring all the commissioners here, and you will see how the continent, people in the continent are fighting for human rights. Please, now we still have two hours before the end of the day. I wish all of you a successful and to conclude successful your day. And please go back to your work. Thank you very much for coming here.
Thank you.
And thank to the Excellency, the South Africa. I think today you have been the champion of